All right. Welcome to Content Creators. I'm your host, Alvin Luck. I will be interviewing Julian, the creative director, and Amethyst, the stage show director of Tales of Orlandia.
Hi.
Hello.
Okay, describe Tales of Orlandia to someone who has never heard about it before.
Okay. Tales of Orlandia is a live-action convention experience, or LACE. Think of it as a live-action role-playing game that you play at the convention. You show up, there are various teams, which we call factions. You pick a faction that you want to support, and by playing the game, you will earn experience points, and you can contribute those experience points towards your faction, and whatever faction gets the most points affects the overall storyline. There's lots of smaller aspects to it. There's a stage show that happens at the three main events of the weekend, so opening ceremonies on Friday, the costume contest on Saturday, and closing ceremonies on Sunday. That will tell the overarching story. And then there's the tavern room. There's going to be a lot of ums. There's the tavern, which is where you will interact with various NPCs who will give you quests to earn experience points. We typically have a card game that you can play and earn for free. We give out buttons for leveling up in your rank. Lots of various little small components go into this big thing.
Our NPCs also often create trinkets for their quest lines that they give out for their personal character's story, so we hit that mark as well.
I have heard about the card game. Is that a bit of a tricky thing to set up and design?
Yes. The short answer is yes. We've had a few different card games over the years that have all been phased out for one reason or another.
The current card game is called Champions of Orlandia.
Cool. Okay. Do you know the origin of the idea to create Tales of Orlandia? Basically, its origin story.
Yeah. So Tales of Orlandia wasn't always called Tales of Orlandia. It was originally just called Orlandia. It was created by Eric Reese, who is one of the previous owners of one of the founders of AFO. He's now since passed, but it was his brainchild, and the idea initially was you go to a convention and you show up and you have your panel at 1 o'clock, and the next panel you want to go to isn't until 5 o'clock. Well, now you've got 4 hours to kill. Well, you could go to the dealer's room or whatever, but what if there was something you could do? What if there was a game that you could play in between your panels? And that's where the idea basically spawned from. What if there was some kind of RPG-esque game? I believe the initial pitch, and I could be wrong on this, but I believe the initial idea was, imagine you could play Final Fantasy VII, but you could choose if you wanted to support Cloud or Sephiroth. That was the initial idea, was you could join the good guys or the bad guys. And that was kind of the spawn of what would eventually become Tales of Orlandia.
I did know Eric, and he was a very inspirational person. He inspired me to be a panelist, so I believe that he would come up with this idea. Okay, how do you come up with the storylines?
Well, it always starts with a theme.
Yeah.
Typically around just 3 or 4 months before the convention, we will talk to the rest of the team about what sort of themes they would be interested in seeing. Usually they'll get a couple of options that we'll get their opinion on, and then that theme will primarily drive the story.
Yeah, so it's about 3 to 4 months before the convention. I work year round. I'm already working on next year. The next year's theme has already been decided. It was decided months ago, I think in January. So there's no rest for me. I'm constantly going. But yeah, so to come up with the actual story, yeah, it always starts with the theme. The conceit for Tales of Orlandia is that we can jump around in Orlandia's timeline. It's all one big shared universe.
That is one reason why we started calling it Tales of Orlandia, is because we were telling a story in a linear fashion, and then we realized we got a little bit too far into the future, and so we rebranded so that we could hop around the timeline more effectively.
Yeah. So we rebranded to Tales. Right. And the idea is always that, like, for the first couple years it was sword and sorcery, high fantasy, and then it was steampunk, and then it was like not post-apocalypse, but like cyberpunky, you know, and it kind of like always like jumped around or whatever, and so like the theme would change year after year or whatever, but it was always the same world, and we were just seeing different chapters of it. So that's how we still kind of approach it today. We like they said, we pick a theme, and then from there, it depends on, I have a million Orlandia ideas in my head, so sometimes we pick a theme, like a few years ago we did a weird Western, and I had pretty much a solid idea right at the beginning of like the kind of story I wanted to do. And then there are years like this year for urban fantasy where I've had nothing going in, and I had to it was a lot of late night chats with a closed group of people going, I don't actually know what I want to do, what should the story be. I do kind of break things up into sometimes stories, we have like repeating stories. So I call this year is what I would call a MacGuffin year. This year's story revolves around the magic staff. That's the MacGuffin. Sometimes it's an event year. So like a couple years ago, the Weird West was the Khazardanian moon was the event. So sometimes there's like stories that like we kind of recycle or whatever to get somewhere. But that's where we kind of look at it. We look at theme, and then we look at like what kind of story we're going to tell.
So basically, when you did Tales of Orlandia, you did a reboot of the time of the story, like Transformers did.
No, we actually gave the players the option to completely reset our timeline and start from scratch, and they chose to save it instead. Yeah, that was our 10-year anniversary.
No, 15.
Oh, 15, I'm sorry, yes. That was our 15th anniversary.
Our 15th anniversary was Chrono Conflict, and the stakes for that year was if the bad guys won, all of Orlandia's history would be wiped out, and we would literally Orlandia Earth 2. It'd be a completely new timeline. It'd be completely wiped out. And this is what I say when I say the players affect the storyline, because the other team was the Resistance, and the Resistance won. So the consequence or the result of that was we kept the original timeline. When we changed from Tales of Orlandia, we did starting, it was Swords of Orlandia 1 all the way up to Rocket Rangers of Orlandia 2, The Great Kaz Rush. And that was our Space Western year, and we're like, we can't really go farther in
because
time.
When you say Space Western, it's like we are very far into Orlandia's timeline. We have already gone through and past modern day to such an extreme that we are into deep space travel.
Yeah, so we decided then we were like, we can't really keep going forward, because at that point it was all linear. So we were like, let's rebrand. It's not a reboot, but let's rebrand to Tales of Orlandia, make it like a chapter book type thing. This is the next tale we're telling. And then the next year was Curse of the White Witch. So it was Tales of Orlandia, Curse of the White Witch, and that's actually the earliest in the timeline we've been. And then we went around, and then the next year was our 10-year anniversary. That was Crisis on Infinite Orlandias, and that was at the end of the timeline. So we've jumped around, but it's not a reboot. It's all one shared. Everything's the same.
Do you have any storylines you would like to bring back?
Bring back. I wrote an entire pitch for Rocket Rangers of Orlandia 3 that will never happen. It will never happen because most of the people that were involved at that time have either moved out of state or moved on. Like it would involve bringing back like those characters that are played by those actors, and it's just like not logistically ever gonna happen. But there's an entire Rocket Rangers 3 that I like had in my brain that just won't happen now. Other than that, I'm trying to think of like specifically storylines I want to bring back. There's like things that I want to like do over. Like there are years.
Yeah, there are a lot of years that in hindsight, we realized that we could have done a few things better that would have improved the overall experience. And I think like. For me, I would love to revisit School Spirits and tell it in a better way.
Paranormal horror is like on the short list of like one day we'll get back to this and we'll do this again. There's been kind of a joke that since I took over as creative director, a couple of my years have been like I wasn't like I don't want to say like a big fan, but like there's like the joke would be like our 15 year was Chrono Conflict, and that was like Jude's take on Crisis on Infinite Orlandia. You know, there's been a couple of those where it's like
you redoing that we've already done.
Yeah, me like, but like different, you know. Mm-hmm. I would say something like that. Like paranormal horror is on the list. I want to do again. I mean, we did King's Ransom like not that long ago, and that was high fantasy, but it was so much fun that like I would go back to high fantasy anytime.
I would really love to see another lighthearted adventure romp, a high fantasy, but I want it to be like an actual adventure.
Yeah.
Because when we did King's Ransom was a festival celebrating 100 years of peace in the kingdom. So we were at, it was a very jovial time, but there wasn't a lot at stake. So I think it'd be really fun to do a similar kind of vibe, but with an actual like significant story.
I want another crack at cyberpunk too.
Oh, that'd be so fun.
Well, I was thinking, since you're jumping around in the timeline, you could have a time traveler affect the events in the past.
We have so many time travelers.
We have done that.
I play one of them.
So many times. I also play one of them.
Okay.
Time travel and multiversal variants are, in fact, a part of our universe.
Oh yeah, can I diatribe for like just a second? Okay, I fear putting this on the record, but like I'm so confident that we're probably not gonna see it. So we're talking about like a year I like want to do. One of the year, 1 year that I keeps getting requested is superhero year, where everyone's a superhero, and the problem is that it will logistically probably never happen because we're limited in scope by like we can't like we don't have magic powers in real life.
We also don't really have like a fly system or like, really high level
so
special effects.
There's like a short list of like superpowers we could like get away with portraying.
Orlandia is a big fan of the magical force push.
Yeah, or like force
you stick a hand out and the person like moves back. We do that a lot.
But so there's like a short list of like powers we can actually show. So it's one of those years that kids talked about, and then like people will be like, well, the obvious thing is the plot is like something happens and it takes away all the superheroes' superpowers, and I'm like, cool, so we're doing a superhero year without the coolest thing about superheroes. It's really boring and not cool. The reason I bring this up is because superhero year you brought up multiverses. Superhero year takes place in a branched timeline because there was a event where a bomb went off and it led into Wilds of Orlandia, and it irradiated the like animals of Orlandia, and that's what created like Wilds. Superhero year is the alternate universe where it didn't irradiate the animals, it irradiated people and gave everyone superpowers like mutants. And I'm like, this year is like so clear in my head, and it's probably never gonna happen.
Yeah,
like maybe one day we'll get there. We'll run out of ideas, and maybe we'll get a way bigger budget.
We had a character in Chrono Conflict from that timeline.
Yeah,
we did. Really fun.
Yeah, we had a character
because we had a few characters from like theoretical possible like themes that we might do in the future, just to like give the players a little like something juicy to see how they would react, and that was one of them because we knew we would never get to do a full year for it.
We had a character that was from a year where it was basically like trading, like Orlandia was a trading card game. It was like we called it like Yu-Gi-Oh World, where like Orlandia is a trading card game and everyone just play like, yeah, you're all characters on cards or whatever. Like
that was a really fun person to interact with.
Okay. Any advice for conventions who are trying to make their own live-action convention experience?
Joke answer: don't.
I have gone on record saying several times over, Orlandia is held together by hard work and magic. Every single member of our team works really, really hard on their characters and on their contributions to the game, not only in like the story, but also in the physical way that they interact within the space. And for some reason, we are a group of about 30 people that actually enjoy each other's company, and we also work very well together collaboratively. And that is a very rare situation to find yourself in. Not impossible, but it is rare.
Yeah, like you say like a team of 30, and like you need to understand that like Orlandia I wasn't there the first 2 years, but from what I've been told, it was like 5 people at the end of a hallway with like a table is where it started. When I joined the team, I think we had like 15 people or something, you know, in various levels of like being there, and like we've grown, but it's been a lot of like, hey, I'm gonna like grab you and you're gonna come do. One of our people, Bowie, our quest lead, we literally ran into him at a Renaissance fair, and he was doing something that we were like, oh, this is just Orlandia. Hey, this thing you do for money, you want to come do it for free at an anime convention? And he did, and we got him. Yeah, like advice would I still want a joke answer and just be like, call me.
I mean, the real advice here is that we have discovered through a lot of trial and error that Orlandia, and specifically our team, works best when we are given the autonomy to make decisions that we feel are best for our own characters and for our own world. And we also work very closely with each other to make sure that all of our stories intersect well, and we play off of each other. Like, we have people who have connections with people in other factions, and we work really, really hard to make sure that the story that we're telling and the world we're living in all feels cohesive and that it all feels intentional. Because there's nothing worse in like a theater setting, especially an interactive theater setting, than a plot point that has nowhere to go. So it's very important to make sure that your story has an arc and is able to be communicated effectively in a room full of people who are also trying to do the same thing. So interconnecting your stories and giving yourself a feedback loop to go off of, and just knowing who's in the room with you is a really big part of it.
I think another piece of advice, like not just like for cons, but like if you're thinking about doing this type of thing, is you need to take it seriously, but also not try not to completely stress about it. The thing I always tell like the stage actors is, if you mess up on stage, it doesn't matter. It's gonna happen once. It happens at the weekend, and whatever happens, and it'll it's not like you're doing a Broadway show where you're doing this 8 times a week and you mess up. It's like, if you mess up, how do they know that wasn't planned? They'll never know. We don't release the scripts.
You have to give the work the respect it deserves, because a lot of people will look at this and think, oh, that's really silly, goofy, fun, and whatever, and it is. But a big part of it is also understanding that
it's a lot of work.
It is a lot of work, and if you're not passionate about it, if it's not something you genuinely enjoy doing, that is going to show in the final product. And our players can tell the difference between authenticity and pandering. So it's very important to tell a story that you are interested in telling in a way that you enjoy.
Yeah, I was going to say that it sounds like it's a lot of putting a lot of seriousness in it, but also to just be relaxed and let yourself have the mistakes. And also, if they mess up on stage, a good actor rolls with the mistake.
Mm-hmm. I will also say, like, stand up for yourself. There's been a lot of work done even behind the scenes to get us where we are today.
There have been a lot of people along the way that have cast doubt on what we're doing or have talked down about us, or just whether out of ignorance or out of it's really more of a lack of understanding more often than not. But there's going to be criticism, and there's going to be people that are saying, oh, this is a waste of time, a waste of resources, we could be doing so much more with the money and time we're putting into this. But you also have to know when you have something good, and you need to be able to put your foot down and say, no, we are worth it. We are worth this because we bring something unique to this convention that people genuinely enjoy.
Oh yeah. Do you have any convention stories you'd like to share?
Do you does it need to be Tales related or just convention story?
Just convention.
Okay, I have some Tales related ones, but I'll let you go first.
Oh, I just want to. This is my favorite convention story about young me. Disclaimer: don't do this. But I can't remember what year it was, but it was like a year that I was a player. And I was very young. I was like a teenager, and I had discovered Monster Energy, not sponsored. And I was like, Monster Energy says something like, don't drink more than 3 of these in a day. So I was like, cool. So I would drink like 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon, 1 in the evening, and then it would roll over to midnight, and I'd be like, well, that's a new day. And I think I drank like too much. I drank too much energy drink over like the course of like the weekend. I didn't sleep. I had
for like 3 days.
For like 3 days. I would wake up, I would spend the day at the con, then I would go to the pool, and I would be in the pool, and then I would wander the halls until the convention started the next day. And then I think my mom picked me up like on Sunday, and I like was finally starting to fade, and I went home and I slept for like 24 hours straight. Like, my mom was worried I might be in a coma. Like, it was like only when I woke up like then the day after and was like starving. But that's just like my young me or AFOs. That was at an AFO, so it's oddly appropriate. Don't do that. I would probably die if I did that today.
I think my favorite convention story, one of my favorite experiences from any convention I've been to, was during Tales of Orlandia. It was my very first year as a volunteer. Well, it was my first year at AFO in general, but it was my first time being involved with this experience, and I had made a bit of a nothing character because I'd never been to the convention before, and I'd never played the game, so I was going to get a feel for it. And then I ended up having to take over the role of one of the faction leaders because the person who was playing them had dropped out at the last minute. So I was in the tavern, and my faction was really far behind, because if there's one thing that Orlandia hates, it's a military faction. So we had created we were trying to fight for control over asteroids that were full of Khazardanium. And we had created one really big asteroid that was supposed to help catch my team up to the rest. And that asteroid ended up falling under the control of the faction that was in the lead at the time, which was Catch, Import, Export. I was the United Earth Territories. And we decided that the way we were going to fix this was we were going to have the asteroid explode. And then the leader of Catch, Import, Export, Anton Gregory Ketch, was going to come into the room waving his dual golden pistols in my face and say, your ship blew up this asteroid. And he was going to make a big deal about it. And that was it. That was all we had planned. It was 3 of us took a step out into the hallway. We discussed that, exactly what I just said, and nothing more. And then we said, cool, let's do it. And so we went back inside, and I was just waiting for the scene to start. The asteroid exploded, and then he came in, he was waving his guns, he was doing his thing. And then at one point, he pointed him at me and said, do you know what was on that asteroid? And mind you, every single person in the room was watching. he pointed his pistol at me and said, "Do you know what was on those asteroids? Miners, people with families." And you could feel the tension in the room crank all the way up. The air was thick, and every single person in that room looked at each other and silently communicated, "This one's going down." And so they all, without discussion, went up to the computer and effectively wiped me off of the board. And my whole faction was done at that point. And I was not very well off to begin with, so it wasn't hard. And then they went back to fighting each other. And the best part about it was that after that, every single time that my faction got control of one of the asteroids, everyone would stop what they were doing and go to the computer and keep going until I was off the map again. They did not let me gain a single inch of traction after that. And I enjoyed that so much. It was so fun for me. And afterwards we had a conversation about it, and there was an apology given, and I was like, absolutely not. No, you do not get to apologize for this, because this was one of the greatest experiences of my life.
Sometimes playing the villain is the best job ever.
I love playing the villain.
The worst part was I wasn't even really a villain. I was framed. No, my character was actually framed. Somebody else had given the order and used one of her ships, but that's another story.
Also, real quick, you just reminded me, speaking of playing the villain, because you just reminded me of one of my favorite moments that ever happened in Orlandia history. This was during Curse of the White Witch, so this was the second year I was involved. It was actually Amy.
It was the two of us.
It was the two of us. We were playing. So the main villain was Yuki, who was was the White Witch. She was controlling this army of the undead, and we were two of the undead generals. So I was Aconite, Amy was Hemlock, and during
Out my casual name like that. My goodness.
Sorry, Amethyst was Hemlock. We can edit.
No, it's fine. You're fine. Keep going.
And there was a character named Quoth, who was part of the Raven clan, Quoth the Raven, and he was killed in Act 2. And in the tavern, after the stage show, we had a funeral for Quoth.
There was a eulogy given by the character who was his best friend. It was very touching, actually.
It was very touching. And then we showed up as the undead generals and basically mocked them and were like, "Oh, look how the mighty have fallen. You can't even, because we didn't even kill him. He was killed by the two faction leaders were fighting, and he stepped in the middle, and he ended up being the one that got stabbed. So we were like, we don't even have to kill you. You're just going to kill yourselves for us."
This was our first year, I think, with Warriors of Orlandia as our card game, and there was a mode for it that was a 2v2, where it was primarily played as a 1v1. So we were trying to demonstrate that for the players and to issue them a challenge to come and fight the two of us 2-on-2 to demonstrate the format.
So we interrupt the eulogy, and we're playing these undead generals, and we're mocking them and whatever. And the person playing Quoth's best friend stands up, confronts us, and is turns to the room and is like, "Orlandians, stand with me against this threat," or whatever. And I'm not kidding. When there were people seated at tables, everyone in the tavern stood up and looked mean mugged us. And I externally, I'm playing the confident villain.
So cool.
I'm playing it. It's so cool, and I'm like, yeah, bring it on or whatever. Internally, I'm like, Amy, we're about to die. They're going to physically kill us. We're not going to play a card game. They're going to take us in the alley and shoot us.
It was terrifying, but it was so cool.
But it was everyone in every player stood up and confronted. I was like, uh-oh.
Sometimes the real thing is sometimes the entire room manages to get on the same page at the exact same moment, and those are always the most beautiful things to witness. And it's really interesting to see how the players react to certain things that we present them, because we were not expecting them to do that. We thought like a few people might come up and be like, oh yeah, I'll fight you. And it's like, cool, yeah, grab a friend, whatever. But no, every single person, Quoth and Shiro had garnered so much favor from those players that when Shiro said stand, the entire room did not hesitate. It was crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, would you like to promote anything besides Tales of Orlandia?
I stream on Twitch occasionally. Twitch.tv/justmejude. I don't have a schedule. I just follow me.
You stream when the muse strikes.
Yep, I stream typically single player things, very story driven things. Right now I'm playing through Tunic.
What are some of the other games you've played?
I've played basically every Life is Strange game except the new ones. I've played through Danganronpa. I've played through Danganronpa, the first two Danganronpas. Those are a trip.
You played Outer Wilds.
Outer Wilds. That was fun. Yeah. So just a lot of single player stuff, and I stream when the muse strikes me. But the real thing I'm promoting is come play Tales of Orlandia at Anime Festival Orlando.
No, I'm good.
Yeah.
I don't do much outside of Tales of Orlandia, honestly. Yeah, come play Tales of Orlandia. We're a really fun time.
Oh yeah, this is probably this sounds like it's going to be fun. This sounds fun in that. Okay, thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed this interview.
Yeah, we really did. This was a lot of fun. Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us. I love nothing more than talking about Orlandia.
Thank you.